What's up, guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. This week, I need to send a huge thanks out to Matthew Simon, who donated $100 on Patreon, which is just mind-blowingly gracious, so thank you so much, Matthew. I had a lot of people this week ask me on my opinion about the new Episode 8 title, Last of the Jedi, and so many people asked that I figured I would cover it briefly here, even though I already did a video on it by itself. So if you want my full thoughts, check out that video. I'll put a link in the cards and in the description. But just real quickly, I think that The Last Jedi is referring to Luke. I know it can be singular or plural, but I think it's Luke, and I think he will be the last one because I don't think he's going to train Rey to be a Jedi in the strictest sense. I think we're seeing new organizations like Kylo Ren and Snoke. They're not Sith. They're something new, but still dark side. So I think Luke is going to answer that with a new light side kind of entity, or even more balanced between the two. We're seeing characters like Ahsoka and Kanan, they're finding balance. Like, Kanan's arc in Season 3 of Rebels has been about finding balance with the Bendu. He's the one in the middle. So I think that could kind of be pointing towards where Luke's philosophy is headed, and Rey might not be a Jedi. She will be a force for good, but just not a Jedi. But those are my thoughts. If you want to see more, including like why I think that the text is red and not yellow, check out that other video. The first patron question this week comes from Matthew Simon, who asks if Drew Karpyshyn could ever come back to write a new Star Wars novel. Now, he wrote the Darth Bane trilogy, he wrote the Darth Revan novel, he's written a ton of other sci-fi books and other franchises, and I agree with you. I think that he could possibly come back to write a Darth Revan book, because as we've seen in Rebels, we're getting hints like Malachor and the Mandalorian Wars. They're kind of teasing things that happened in his past. I'm actually doing a video all about Revan and if he returns or how he might return. That's going to come out next week, so keep an eye out. But I think if that were to happen, they could get an author like Timothy Zahn did with Thrawn. They could get an author to write a tie-in novel all about Revan. And Drew Karpyshyn would be perfect for that job. Marcus W. wants to know how Kylo Ren will look in Episode 8, or The Last Jedi. I guess we can start calling it that now. I think he still will have his mask. You are correct, he left it on Starkiller Base, but I think either someone will have picked it up. I think that's unlikely. What's more likely is I think he'll build another one, or he'll just have others lying around. But I think he'll have that same kind of design, or at least something very close to it. I think that's already very iconic to his character, and I don't see them abandoning that. I do think he'll have the scar from the lightsaber damage, and as far as his lightsaber goes, I think he'll probably keep a crossguard design, because he based it on designs from Malachor. He chose that design. He seems like a hipster that way. So I think he's going to keep the crossguard, but it probably won't be an unstable blade because he is past all that wishy-washy stuff. He seems to have chosen a side, and he would have had to find a cracked kyber crystal again, or maybe he just like takes a hammer to it, but I don't think that would work. So I think he'll have a stable blade this time to kind of symbolize his growth and his journey towards the dark side. Will Nelson asks if Anakin knew that Leia was his daughter before he died. I don't have any concrete proof. This is just my interpretation of how Return of the Jedi played out, but no, I don't think he did. When he is reading Luke's mind or his feelings, he says, "You have a twin sister." He didn't say a name, he didn't get a name, he just knows that Luke is thinking about his sister. Luke was probably guarding his thoughts. When he dies, he says, "Tell your sister you were right." He doesn't say tell Leia. So in my mind, no, he just knew that there was another child of his out there, but he didn't know who specifically it was. Richard BB wants to know my least favorite parts of the new canon since the reboot, because he has noted how generally positive, maybe overly positive I am about Star Wars, And I will answer his question, but I do want to explain why I'm so positive on this channel. I do have negative opinions about Star Wars content, but I want this channel to be more a celebration of what we love about Star Wars, and I don't want to rehash things that people don't like. I mean, I have negative opinions about Star Wars. I am not the biggest fan of the prequels, but people have bashed them to death. I'm over it. There's no reason for me to add my voice to what people have already said. I don't want to talk crap about the prequels. I want to talk about what I like about the prequels. Or if I am talking about just like some aspect that even I might not be all that jazzed about. I've done a video about Jar Jar Binks, but when I do it, I want to talk about it just presenting the facts and not the opinions, because I just think it's pointless at this point. But when it comes to newer stuff that I'm reviewing, if you go back to the Iron Squadron episode of Star Wars Rebels, the review video I did, I say in the video, I didn't like this episode, so this video is going to be short, because I didn't want to spend time ripping it apart. And part of me just has a little trouble taking something that someone worked very hard on, it that someone's proud of, and tearing it apart, because being a reviewer is not hard work. It's just like, did I like it? Did I not like it? And it just seems gratuitous to sell someone everything they did wrong, when really they're just trying to make something that we like. So when I talk about something that I don't like, I just try to focus on what I did enjoy about it. I will try to be honest and say, you know what, this wasn't for me, but I will not pile on when I don't think that it's deserved. So that was kind of a long-winded response to that, but let's get into what I am not crazy about. And again, I'm just going to say what they are and not so much why, but I really didn't like the Chewbacca comic. I just thought the story was boring and didn't really reveal anything new. I felt somewhat similarly about the Princess Leia comic. I was just kind of bored with it. Also didn't really like the Han Solo comic. It started strong and then it kind of petered out. I didn't like the whole alternate dimension thing in there. Most of the 5 arc issues I've been kind of disappointed with, except for Lando. I thought that one was phenomenal, and I hope the Darth Maul one is good. But I already mentioned the Iron Squadron. I didn't like the Winkathu job. Really, Thrawn in general, I've been a little underwhelmed with. I hope he gets to do more. He just hasn't lived up to his Legends counterpart to me, so I'm kind of on the fence on him right now. Like, they could turn it around very easily. So I don't want to say I don't like him yet, but so far I just wish he had done more. I didn't like Starkiller Base. I have said over and over again about Legends that I don't like using super weapons over and over and over again. So when they threw in Starkiller Base, I was like, okay, well, here we go. So I hope they kind of abandon that for The Last Jedi and Episode 9. But there's a few things that I am not super cool with, or not super excited about when it comes to the new canon. And I feel like I've spent a lot of time on this question, so let's go on to the next one. Lucas de Carvalho Maria, I hope I said that right, asks if I have a team for this channel, like an editing team. And right now it's just me and my wife Molly. So I do most of the research and the writing and all of the voiceover, all of the editing, all of the YouTube uploading and all that. Molly helps me with the research and some of the writing, and she handles the bulk of our social media. So a lot of the sharing of our videos and keeping up with and informing about news, that's all Molly. She does that especially while I'm at work because I just can't do it. But yeah, for now it's just the two of us, so no real major team right now. That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, as always, just head over to Patreon on our weekly Q&A thread, and I left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. It's just $1 a month. It gets you some extra Star Wars Explained access and goodies, including a monthly giveaway of a year-long subscription to Smuggler's Bounty, and the combined donations really go a long way in helping the channel out. On to YouTube questions. Good old Daniel S. is back, and he asks what kind of role I expect Captain Phasma to have in The Last Jedi. I gotta get used to that. And will we ever see her unmasked? I really do hope that she has an expanded role in The Last Jedi, because I feel like she was a little underserviced in The Force Awakens. Some statements from Gwendolyn Christie seem to point towards Captain Phasma. Yes, she will be around more. She'll have a more significant role. So I'm excited to see that. I feel like she needs some redemption after The Force Awakens. Will we ever see her unmasked? I think so. I think that makes sense at some point. Maybe not in December, but maybe in Episode 9. Starkiller100 wants to know why Admiral Ackbar wasn't in Rogue One, yet he was on Yavin 4 mere days after, according to the Princess Leia comics. I don't have a real canon answer for you, but I do have my own speculation. I figure he was just out and about on his own mission. He had the home one. He's just cruising around the galaxy doing something else. I'm sure it was very important, but then after the Battle of Yavin, they all needed to get off the planet, or the moon, so I assume he showed up to help with the evacuation. So again, that's not a real in-universe answer. We don't currently know. That's just my best guess. HD Jan LP asks if we'll ever see Orson Krennic show up in Star Wars Rebels. In the latest episode of the Star Wars show, they hinted very, very strongly that some characters from Rogue One, now that it's been released, and they can start to kind of increasing connectivity there, that some of those characters are going to pass into Rebels. Like, we know Mon Mothma is going to show up. We've already seen Saw Gerrera. We know Jan Dodonna is going to show up. So Krennic, I could see him popping up, especially if the Ghost keeps unknowingly investigating the Death Star like we saw in the Ghost of Geonosis. As we get closer in time to Rogue One, and I imagine that they're going to get closer and closer to the Death Star, it would make a lot of sense for Krennic to appear. Grand Admiral Thrawn wants to know how I want to see him die. I've touched on this before, but I can't not answer the Grand Admiral himself, so frankly, I don't want you to die, but I do think that you will in Star Wars Rebels. I hope it doesn't happen in Season 3, because like I said earlier, I don't think you've done enough yet. I want to see you do more so you can live up to your Legends counterpart. But when it happens, maybe in Season 4, I don't want to see you outsmarted by the Rebels. You're way better than that. I want you to be assassinated by surprise like it happened in Legends, something that you could not have seen coming. And when it happens, I want you to keep your last line, your dying words about how artistically your assassination was carried out. William Roggenkamp asks if any of Saw Gerrera's partisans survived the attack on Jeddah. I think they probably did or were meant to. We see them running to ships like their X-Wings and getting out of there. We don't see whether or not they really escape, but there is behind-the-scenes footage that shows some of Saw's characters, like Moroff. He's at Scarif. So I think they were meant to escape and then come back and help the rebels at the Battle of Scarif. But when the reshoots happened, all of that was just swept under the rug and the plot was abandoned. But in my mind, yeah, I think they did survive. But that's all the time for questions I have today. If you want to leave a question for next week, just put it in the comments below or head over to Patreon and join up so you can get access to our weekly Q&A thread. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.